Hello everyone! Welcome for today's video. We're diving into something super important for educators, the Gagne's 9 Events of Instruction, a model developed by Robert M. Gagne. He was a pioneer in educational psychology, and his work has revolutionized how we approach teaching. This model helps teachers connect with their students, creating the best possible environment for learning. So if you are interested, let's get started.
First up, you've got gaining attention. You can teach anything if your students aren't paying attention, right? That's why it's super important to grab their focus. For example, imagine you're teaching a history lesson about ancient civilization. You might start with an unexpected question like, what would you do if you were living in an ancient Egypt with only hand tools and no modern technology? You could also use a cool visual like showing a 3D model of pyramids to capture their attention. The key is to use something that makes them go, wait, what? Anything that sparks curiosity.
Second event instructions, informing the learners of the objectives. One word caught their attention. The next step is informing the learners of the objective. Let them know exactly what will be learned and why it is matter and how they will be assessed. For example, let's say you're teaching a math lesson on fractions. You could say by the end of the day class, you will be able to and add the fractions with different denominator. You will be tested on this with a quiz at the end of the lesson where you will need to solve a 5 fractions problem, or you could ask them, what do you already know about fractions and how do you think learning this will be help you in a real life?
Okay, let's proceed to the third event, stimulating recall of prior learning. Before diving into new information, it's time to stimulate recall of prior learning. This step helps students connect what they're about to learn with what they already know. For instance, if you're teaching about ecosystem, ask them, what do you remember from the last week lesson on food chains? How are food chains connected to ecosystems? You could also provide a brief recap of the previous lesson on the topic, so they're mentally prepared to build on that knowledge. It's all about setting a strong foundation for the new content.
Now, we get to the real teaching, presenting the content. That is where you bring in all the learning materials. It's essential to use a variety of methods. For example, if you're teaching a science lesson on gravity, you might start with a short lecture explaining the theory. Then, you could show a video or animation demonstrating how gravity works, followed by a hands-on experiment where students drop different objects to observe gravity in action. This variety ensures that you're engaging all types of learners, whether they prefer visual, auditory, or hands-on learning.
The fifth event is providing learning guidance. Before letting the students practice, it's time to provide learning guidance. Why? This helps students understand what they are working towards. For example, if you are teaching how to write an essay, show them an example of essay that meets all the requirements. You could walk them through how to write an introduction, craft a statement, and support their arguments with evidence. By giving them the clear examples, you are helping them know exactly what to aim for.
Eliciting the performance. Now comes the fun part. Eliciting performance or practice. This is where students get to apply what they've just learned. For example, after teaching about different types of angles in geometry, you might ask them to solve problems in pairs or individually, using protractors to measure and classify angles. Another example could be a role-playing activity in a language class where students practice introducing themselves in a foreign language. Giving students opportunities to practice what they've learned help them internalize the material.
Providing feedback. Feedback is essential in this process, but not just any feedback. Real-time, constructive, and positive feedback. According to Gagne, feedback should be immediate so that student can correct their mistake and improve while the lesson is still fresh in their mind. Now, let's talk about different types of feedback you can give to your student. Confirmatory feedback. This type of feedback simply informs the student whether or not they're following the guidance correctly. For example, after a student complete a math problem, you will might say, yes, that's correct, or no, that's not quite right. It is doesn't go into detail about how well they did or what to do improve, but it's help them to know if they're on track. Evaluate feedback. Here you give your overall appraisal for your work. For example, after reviewing an essay, you might say, this is a solid essay with a good argument, or your work meet the basic requirements, but it could be stronger. It doesn't provide specific steps for improvement, but lets the student know where they stand. Remedial feedback. This type helps students adjust their approach without giving them the answer directly. For example, if a student is stuck on the problem, you could say, think about how we solve similar problem in class. Could you try using the same method here? This kind of feedback helps them find their way to solution on their own. Descriptive or analytic feedback. This is a type of feedback that really boosts performance. You provide detailed, actionable advice. For example, after reviewing a student project, you might say, your research is strong, but you can improve the clarity of your argument by recognizing your paragraphs. Try adding a topic sentence at the start of each section. This gives them clear, specific steps on how to improve.
After giving them time to practice, it's time to assess performance. That is how you evaluate if they met the learning objectives. For example, if you've been teaching about historical events, you might give them a written test where they have to identify key events and explain their significance. Or, if you're teaching a hands-on skills like painting, you could assess their work by having them submit a final project that showcases the techniques you've covered. The assessment will give you a clear idea of their understanding and ability to apply the new knowledge.
The ninth event is enhancing retention and transfer. This step ensures students can retain and apply what they've learned in real-life situations. For example, after a lesson on budgeting, you might ask students to apply their new skills by creating a budget for a math trip, reinforcing how budgeting works in everyday life. You can also encourage periodic reviews of the material, maybe giving them a brief quiz after a week or assigning them a project that connects the lesson to something they're passionate about. This ensures that not only remember what they've learned, but they can also use it outside the classroom.
To sum up, Gani's 9 Defense Obstruction is a framework for effective teaching that helps educators create a structured learning environment. 1. Gaining attention. Capture students' focus with engaging questions or visuals. 2. Informing learners of the objectives. It clearly states the learning goals and how students will be assessed. 3. Stimulate and recall of prior learning. Connect new content to what students already know. 4. Presenting the content. It is used diverse methods, for example, lectures, videos, experiments, to teach new material. 5. Providing learning guidance. Show examples and guide students in understanding the desired outcomes. 6. Eliciting performance. Give students opportunities to practice and apply what they've learned. 7. Providing feedback. offer constructive, real-time feedback to guide improvement. 8. Assessing performance. Evaluate students' understanding through tests, projects, or other assessments. And 9. Enhancing retention and transfer. Reinforce learning through reviews and encourage application in real-world situations. By following these steps, educators can create a more engaging and effective learning experience. That wraps up our video presentation. We hope you gained valuable insights from it. Thank you so much for watching.